All right, we are live. This is today's edition of USA Stormwatch Daily. I am Hurricane Specialist Jonathan Mitchell. JD
and
is
I'm
here.
and I'm
Vice
USA
for
Severe. I'm Vice Forecaster JD Rap with you.
mhm. Yep. So you can see some of the major cities. Their temperatures are down below, streaming on the ticker. But for right now, let's go ahead and get started here for what we got going on. Um, uh, here. Let's see what all we got going on. I'm actually going to go ahead and look at our spring outlook and let's press that. We got a lot to go through. Let's look at the spring outlook here. Let's see, did it pop up? Oh no, it's loading. Anyway, we was going through this stuff yesterday, and um, today I actually put together what we think will happen officially this spring. So I'm gonna get the clicker. Anyway, this is based on what the National Weather Service said. I didn't go into the probabilities, but I did, and I just want to show you this. It's cooler than normal in Washington and up to 10, and in parts of Montana, while a good 80% of the United States has warmer air. And you can see that from California, from coast to coast, basically. It'll be warmer than normal for temperature, according to what the Climate Prediction Center says.
Mm-hmm.
Continue here. This is the precipitation outlook, and you can see it's drier than normal further down toward this. I'll say from California to Nevada to Utah, down to the whole state of Arizona, whole state of Utah, excuse me, whole state of Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, Nebraska, points north,
Oklahoma.
South Dakota, on further south, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, the whole state of Florida, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and southern Georgia, and southern South Carolina are all drier than normal. The Ohio Valley on up to parts of the Midwest, wetter than normal, and then back toward the Northwest, wetter than normal as well. Now, let me back that back up here. I'm going to have to touch on something, and it is severe weather related. Um, when
Mm-hmm.
you get dry air with that warmer air, it causes problems in terms of storms,
Dry line.
especially you know um, when you get those tornadoes. You need that drier air and you need that wetter air. This is drier and wetter air, but you see areas like Kansas City, Memphis, Hot Springs, Nashville, Charlotte, Wilmington, Rapid City. Those are areas that need to be watched this year, and we'll touch on that later when we severe weather. This is our 2021 seasonal for drought. And if you look at it, this is crazy because what the Weather Service
Yes.
is expecting is a dry spring for most of us. JD, you got anything to say about that?
Yes, I got some thing. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the drought conditions, and I got a little story you might agree with me too. And let me put my face up here. What's concerning me if the Weather Service do not think there's going to be a drought? I mean, I mean, I think there's going to this summer it could go dry because I remember the year 2012 there was a big ridge that sat on top of us since May and burned up everybody's crops, and we got no rain through August. So, Jonathan, if we go through something like that, that is a very bad situation, right?
When you get into drought conditions, especially if the drought chooses to start in the spring months. So you can see, according to the Weather Service, everybody's shaded in this brown color. Whole state of Texas, Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, parts of Louisiana, all the way over to Oregon and California, Nevada, and Idaho. Be careful. You could get into drought. Now, let's come more recent
Yeah,
instead of range. Like the things I was showing you were for the whole spring, meteorological spring, which is March, April, and May.
heavy rain.
Uh, meteorological summer starts June 1st. Now, this is from the Climate Prediction Center. It was just issued this afternoon. So from March the 10th to March the 16th, everybody shaded in the green color could see some heavy rain. So that includes Little Rock, Memphis,
Yeah.
Hot Springs, Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas City, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Evansville, Nashville, Louisville, on up to Cincinnati,
St.
Cleveland,
Louis.
Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Louis, Illinois, um, Iowa. So a good chunk of the country could get some heavy rain uh, for within the next couple of things. So here's
And
our official
here's our
spring
problem: our severe
um,
weather.
forecast.
Yeah, goodness.
Go ahead.
All right, let me do a
This
little
is the
talking about
official
this.
spring forecast.
Yeah, and what Jonathan is saying here is this is as the reason why they got that question mark there is I do think there's going to be some severe weather. I heard on the chat, Facebook, and a lot of people saying this could be more of a severe weather threat this year because are going into so do you think, Jonathan? I think we'll see more
Actually,
tornadoes
we're
this year than
changing
anything
neutral.
else.
We're changing neutral this
Yeah. So
year,
was
which I'll touch on that in a minute. We're in La Nina, but we're going to go neutral. Now, this is full screen because this is the thinking
and they
from
fight.
us. Now, realize, take it, take it with a lot of grain of salt because long range forecasts, take them with a lot of salt. Um,
They may not be right.
Dry, sunny, yeah, this may not be right, but this is our group's thinking when it comes down to severe weather. I've listened to Ian, I've listened to JD over the past couple of days. I've read what Isaac said, and
Yeah.
now I've composed all of our thinking
Yeah.
into one big map. And there you can see the
Yes.
Northeast, cold, rain, snow, possibly.
Yeah.
Florida, not all of Florida, but from Miami to Tampa to Orlando, just warm and dry.
Yes.
Texas all the way to California, drought, sunshine, and dry for most of the spring. That doesn't mean you won't see storms. Let me say that. And then the convergent area would be East
Yeah.
Texas and Arkansas. That's where you have to watch, where boundaries and storm systems set up. At least that's what the thinking is for right now. Minneapolis on down to Chicago
All
to
right. Let me get
Kansas City
this.
to St. Louis, and etc. Chance of storms. There's a possibility they could be severe, and this is also based off what
All
the
right,
National Weather Service is saying as well. But I took all of our thinking and I put it into one huge map, and you can see that here. It was full screen for a while, but this is one big map on what some of the bigger what me, Ian, JD, and Isaac are thinking for the spring. Now again, take it with a lot of grain of salt, everybody,
All right.
because what we have on this map could change, and it may not even happen. What's on this map?
Yes.
Um, this is just take it with a lot of grain of salt. Just because Dallas and Midland and Austin and Houston have drier conditions does not mean it's storms and severe weather in the spring. I guarantee you they will. Denver too, Santa Fe.
Yes.
Just
I see
because
it.
you're
I
dry
see it.
doesn't mean you won't get severe storms. And the dry air may also cause a
All
problem.
right.
Now, I do a
Yes.
big thing. Ian was thinking that
All right, Isaac. You want to do? It's going to be since you were not with
well,
us yesterday.
oh, yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, we're still trying. I know Jonathan's been in and out here, but I do want to add to this discussion here, just kind of following up with just how things are looking for just the spring season overall, and yeah, just catching up on that map, so you can see just a general idea. You know how areas parallel to the Gulf of Mexico, like the Midwest, towards the south, of course. Anything that's like adjacent and along and parallel to the Gulf of Mexico, you got your source of moisture, and you can see areas that are not parallel to
Mm-hmm.
the Gulf. you have what looks fairly dry. I mean, obviously, another thing that comes to mind here is the ENSO status too. So, like, we've been in La Nina and continue to be, or it's we're going to go a little bit more neutral in the ENSO, and maybe some, you never know, some weaker El Nino that could form into the summer. But I think we'll be just latest trends do suggest we'll probably be neutral. But I mean, the La Nina, it's going to be a
Hmm.
concern, particularly later in March into April. That's our peak spring severe weather season. That's what we got to watch closely here. The springtime, like meteorological spring just started, so just
Yeah.
over the next couple of months, we'll have to watch it closely. And I've even looked at some of the ensemble data and some of the climate
I
model
have
data
too.
too. Just and I can pull it up now, and eventually I could
Yeah.
just
And I can pull it up
I
too,
can show
Jonathan.
you. Yeah, and
Right. I
yeah,
mean, I took as we were
we'll get you,
saying, I took the whole.
Jonathan.
I took I took everything, and I took everything from what we were all thinking. I put it in the map has to be taken with grain of salt because the weather service, the map I already showed the service maps. Um and the weather, and that's also kind of based off what the weather service is saying. Now Ian and
Yeah.
I, even with the dry air over Texas and Oklahoma, all the way to California, that will cause problems. Not necessarily for Texas and Oklahoma, but for areas just to the east of there, because you got that dry air and then that warmer air clashing, which causes your storms. And here is the summary here. So La Nina will likely go away and will likely go neutral. It's a 40% chance of going neutral for us. Periods of severe weather through the spring are likely. Duh, we're in the springtime. Cold fronts and Pacific storm systems, as well as dry lines. Mainly, we usually get that dry line set up usually in April, in May, but it's possible it could set up in March. And then the dry air further towards the Gulf will need to be wisely. So,
Yeah, let me share
what do
something
you
to you,
guys
Jonathan,
think
okay?
about that?
Here,
Hmm.
let me show you the supercell. Okay, let me show you something here real quick. This is what I looked at last night. This is on the 14th, Jonathan.
Let's see. Um, yeah. Um, if you go back a little bit toward the 12th, go back toward the
Let me
12th. I think, it's
hold
just
on.
worth watching. These are all long range models, and you usually use Supercell Composite
I've
when
been
you're
watching
closer
this
to
last
an
night.
event. But, that's a cold front right there. Yeah, that's a cold front, and it may produce a squall line or a line of thunderstorms that could have wind gusts. At least that's what I
And look at
have
that.
seen, because that's a cold front from that. Um, and then there'll be a weather pattern that'll
Look at
set up
that one.
later next week
This is coming from the
that'll
Gulf,
cause.
guys.
I've been watching that. I think
I have
I,
too.
that's gonna have to be one to watch because that's a system coming out of the Gulf.
Yes,
So
I
that will
agree with
have
you
to be watched
guys.
because there's no telling what that will
And
be.
that one.
So it's just worth watching. You have to take these long range computer models with a lot of salt, with grains of salt, for us here. Um, so these things, I want to show this. I'm not gonna press. Yeah, I'm gonna show this here. There we go. Um, this is what's going on now, and you can see it's mostly dry across the west. There's a storm system around Louisiana, high pressure toward the Ohio Valley and Pennsylvania, and then two lows to the north. It's still cold. It's cold up there toward Maine and Massachusetts. They're in the teens and 20s right now, and then you have all this warmer air toward the west from Texas points west. It's much warmer. So these are all areas of surface areas of high pressure. Now, for right now, we have a storm system that's off the coast of Washington that'll move through part of the country starting tomorrow. That won't produce severe weather. That's just going to be plain old rain. Um, Next Wednesday is worth watching, but if there will be any severe weather, which I'm going to show here in a minute, it'll be mainly hail. Um, St. Louis is where a lot of people are at, and they did have some rain, snow the past couple of days, but they're quite warm. It's at 58 at Lambert right now, and the winds are out of the south southwest, but very low humidity. So cold. Again, I talked about a storm system that'll be coming through the United States starting tomorrow. St. Louis is ahead of it. They're sunny. They're warm. They're in the 60s, 50s on Thursday with a lot of wind. Friday, the cold front will finally clear the area, and for the weekend, it should be nice, but getting back up towards 60 by Sunday. Um, uh, so if we continue, last year we had those in the Nashville area. It was F3 in Nashville. Basically, later on this evening, it would be the anniversary of it because the storms did start later on in the evening and continued early through the third. Um, 24 fatalities, 150 or more people injured from information I was looking at. And it got stronger in Cookeville, became an F4. And as I stressed right there on the graphic, tornadoes that occur at night is very, very dangerous. They're more dangerous than a day tornado. Anybody want to comment on that?
Tornadoes. I don't really. I do a lot of severe weather tracking. I tracked that one tornado event that hit up there in Nashville, and it was a pretty strong one. And I just don't. I think more people are not aware of tornado warnings at night than they are during the day hours. I'd rather track it during the day than at night, where you might see something during the day, but at night it is very difficult to see. What do you think, Isaac and Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up with that. So again, I will point out that there are some. So the Nashville in particular, that would be a year ago tomorrow, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Tomorrow the
Yes.
third. Just to clear up the confusion, a lot of us thought it was today, but it's actually tomorrow. But it was actually late to like pretty much like well into the overnight hours. And the reason why, the warning and everything. So like there's that one cell that tracked across Lake Barkley, just across the Tennessee Valley, and it moved into the correct environment where there was a good amount of low level shear. And there was a narrow corridor of surface-based cape. Even at night, you get some of that warmer air at the ground, and it's unstable. And then that provides a lot of fuel for tornadoes as well. So I mean, that was a very lone supercell. So so obviously that wasn't a tornado outbreak by any means, but that was still a lone cell that tracked into downtown Nashville. And I mean, within just minutes of a tornado warning being issued, it developed in that correct environment. And I mean, it was a tragedy, and I will affirm. So obviously, this wasn't an environment where there were widespread supercells or any kind of. It was a fairly long tracked supercell. So I mean, the warning probably wasn't well received. So because everyone was in bed, and not too many people had like their. Some people have their cell phones on vibrate. And I just learned actually fairly your ringer has to be turned on for your phone to make an audible sound when you get a wireless emergency alert. If it's on vibrate, all it does is vibrate. It doesn't make an audible alarm sound.
It's a waste of time too.
You probably sleep through it. Again, just saying, the warning wasn't well received. I'm by people. Other people, ultimately, that's that's how lots of people survive. And we got to make sure that we're prepared for that because there could be some similar events. And I mean, I'm just remembering some of the notable tornado outbreaks in the past. And one thing that comes to mind for me is definitely December the 1st of 2018 across Illinois.
Yep.
There were 23
Here's one.
or so tornadoes that formed. And again, there was only two parent supercells. This wasn't like there weren't organized supercells all over the place. These were two long track supercells that ended up producing that ended up in the right environment. Just obviously these were low tops, and while we didn't see organized supercells, that's why sometimes you get these smaller scale tornado, even in a day that it's not like there's a moderate or high risk from the Storm Prediction Center. A smaller scale tornado outbreak, like several counties, can even occur even if there's like a slight risk for storms.
Mhm.
And that's
Yep.
something very important to note. And give
Yeah.
me 1 second.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Especially
just
November
saying, it's
7.
the correct environment, drier and cooler air, separate and a tight gradient there where it needs to go from Mexico. The warmer air, just saying, with this La Nina hovering around, these next several months will have to be watched closely for sure. Would you like to follow up?
Exactly.
I think so too.
He's absolutely
All right.
correct. Yeah,
I
he
just
is right.
Well, we have that storm system on November
Yeah.
17, 2013. That was a potent storm system, Isaac, right? The one tornado outbreak in November.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, just because it's the fall and winter months does not mean you can't, you tornado
Yeah.
threat here. Let me go back to that. As Isaac was saying, if we look back at this map for what we're going for the spring, you can see there's a little bitty area that in between the where we have the drought and the severe storm. Or that area is the area that will have to be watched quite closely as we go on through the through spring months. And again, there's your drought map, and it's not this area. This area is given the drier air, the drier weather patterns, and then that's the area where you'll get the wetter air. And also with the wetter air, you get heavier rain because there's more lift to the air. And there you go. And again, in between Houston and New Orleans, there's your little portal to bring in that moisture and the clashes of the air masses. So again, it's something that's going to have to be watched because you got your storm area there and you got your drier air from Texas points west. And again, with La Nina still around, just because there is a 60% chance that La Nina goes away, um, does not mean
Doesn't
that
mean
that
it will.
40% chance of La Nina staying. Exactly. There's still a chance of La Nina sticking around, and that's 40%. A 40% chance of La Nina staying, but there's a 60% chance of it going away. So likely we go neutral. And, and if I think in some neutral years it has gotten active. But even with the neutral years, regardless, every year some years are quieter than others. Some years are more active than others. So every year we get weather across the country, but some years it's quiet, like for 2020, for example, was quieter than 2019, much quieter than 2019 actually. Some areas that usually get tornadoes didn't get none at all last year. Oklahoma, Kansas, for example, they got none. Then you come into 2020 for the most active weather. So, as we just said a while ago, I'm going to piggyback off of what Isaac said. You have to watch that drier air over Texas while that wetter air is over. Watch those clashes because in between, that's where you get the nasty weather and it causes problems. Now, Ian said something in the chat earlier that what he said, I forgot what he said. He said that he thinks severe weather season will slowly start. Now, let me say this. I do agree with him, although end of February, we were just tracking severe storm. Now, most of the country's quiet. There isn't much going on. We've already went through St. Louis. But let's go here. But here's the Vucita scale. What we had in Nashville was that F3, winds of in between 136 to 165 miles an hour.
Wow.
But then when it got to Cookville, it intensified. Some Doppler estimated winds thought that the F4 that the Weather Service went with in Cookville actually was an F5. So it's all worth watching what we have going on here. But let's get now. Just a little under than a year later, it's dry, or it's actually not dry. There's some showers in Nashville at 53. So it's much cooler than what it was last year. And here's the next couple of days for Nashville. It's 63 tomorrow, sunny, cold front moves through Thursday night, produces a couple of thunderstorms Friday morning. Friday's down to 52 for the high, and then the weekend looks dry but warming up next week. Now let's jump ahead to this. This is for next week as well, next Wednesday. There could be some isolated stronger storms down here in the shaded area that could produce a little bit of severe hail or marginally severe hail. Again, the chance of severe weather for
I've
next
seen
week is
that.
quite slim, but there's a chance of hail on Wednesday of next week, mainly hail. We'll have a Pacific storm system along with a cold front come through that way. So areas like Texas, Oklahoma, south of Kansas, into Missouri, towards St. Louis, down to Arkansas and Louisiana could see some hail then. But then there's another chance next week, and this is on Friday. It's quite low. The Cape levels
Okay.
in the shaded area are very high, so it could be a wind and hail risk next Friday for your cold front moves through as
Kind
well.
of like
There's your
last
low
time.
pressure area. What you say?
Kind of like last time where we had that quasi system, right?
Right, kind of similar, but it's not like it's a big setup for tornadoes either day. We're not talking tornadoes next week. We're just talking about mostly hail both days, maybe P to quarters size for both days in the shaded areas. Now it's a bit of a
But
different
quarter
setup
still
next Friday
quarter
because it's a
size
cold.
hail. Still there?
Yeah, quarters can do a lot of damage still for you anyway. So it'll be quarters and up to quarters and maybe wind up to 60 for next Friday from West Texas on up to Kansas and on up I-35. But it's still, I'm gonna say this: take it with a lot of grain of salt. We're a week away from Wednesday, and
Yeah.
we're more than a week away from next Friday. So these maps will change, and we'll post them on the
This one
feed
could change.
after this. Um, yeah. So we'll continue to watch that. Now, let me go ahead and talk about what warm colder air is. This is one of our tower cams from Tampa. Actually, this is Clearwater Beach. It's 84 in Tampa. They're nice. They're sunny. They're warm. They're toasty. It feels like it's 90. The humidity's high at 66 with a southeasterly wind. Now, where's the colder air? Here is New Hampshire. It's 23. It feels like it's 17 with a sunny sky right now, with the humidity down to 10%. Now, let's talk about the severe awareness here real quickly. You need to know the difference between a watch and a warning. After we just went through what went on in Nashville, you need to know the difference between a watch versus a warning. As you hear, the graphic shows what a watch is. Now, if you're under a watch, it doesn't mean the storms are imminent. Conditions are favorable for storms.
Here.
So what you need to do is watch out. And then in a warning, tornado or severe thunderstorm warning, which recently they
What's
just
going
came out
on?
with new thresholds for severe thunderstorm warning. That's a particular hazard is imminent or it's occurring, so you need to take cover or take action. If it's hail or if it's gusty winds, you need to go inside and do something. If it's a tornado, you need to get to your bathroom, a closet, your basement. You need to go somewhere.
Get
If it's a tornado
centered and
warning,
get covered.
exactly. Now, if it's hail and wind, just stay away from windows and go inside. Do something with yourself somewhere. But again, on the watch day, let me give you an example. Um, if you're under a watch, severe thunderstorm watch, it doesn't mean you're getting a severe thunderstorm at that moment. You could be sunny at that
No.
particular moment, and you're like, "What are you talking about? Severe thunderstorms?" Then later on that evening or that night, you get the storms through, and it could produce some gusty winds and hail. Tornado warning. It's the same exact thing. I've listened to stories
Yeah.
about tornadoes, how their day went. It started off sunny and clear, and then it ended in horror. So even with a tornado, you need to take your
Yeah.
precautions at
Yeah.
all
Let me.
times. So again,
Let me. Okay.
go ahead, JD.
Yeah. This goes with the tornado watch or severe thunderstorm watch. I forgot to put out. A PDS is the typically dangerous situation watch. It could be a tornado watch. That means the Weather Service from Norman, Oklahoma, is calling this a particularly dangerous situation. You only see those a handful of times a year, or if there's a high risk or moderate risk. If you see a severe thunderstorm PDS, it means it's always a derecho, right? With 100 miles per wind, right?
Yeah, usually they issue the PDSs if the hail is larger than golf balls. For example, you get softball size hail. They issue that PDS for you here. Um, and sometimes when the winds are 100, you know, or I should say over 80. If the winds are over 75 miles an hour in a thunderstorm, then they issue that PDS warning because that's over hurricane force winds and there's no hurricane. It's just a line of thunderstorms. Um, and again, here, a watch conditions are favorable for storms, so you need to watch out. A warning, it's a particular hazard and it's imminent or it's occurring for you, so you need to take action. That goes for tornadoes, flooding, blizzards, hail, winds, everything. That goes for all of it
Yeah.
uh, for you
Here's another
here.
one. A
So
flood
again,
emergency. There's also a flood
yeah,
emergency too.
it's your whole exactly. So yesterday, actually, we're gonna touch on Monday and Tuesday. We didn't get to talk about safety plans yesterday, but later on this month, this is how we do the severe weather safety week, starting March 26th, I believe. So it's later in the month. So that Monday we will talk about safety plans. That Tuesday we'll talk about tornado safety. That Wednesday we'll talk about lightning safety. That Thursday we'll talk about wind and hail, and then that Friday we'll talk about flooding because I'm gonna just go ahead and say this from what it's looking like this year may also be another bust. Um, don't want to disappoint anyone, but that's what we're going for because as years and trends have continued, areas that are in tornado alley just continue not getting tornadoes each and every year and it's starting to shift further easternly, like Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, areas like that, Missouri, Kentucky. Those are the areas that are starting to increase with tornadoes as years go by. So again, every time we have a big alert, we go red mode for you here. Like for example, if there's a tornado warning and we come on air, we will go mode. But again, you need to watch out when it comes down to a watch and a warning for you here, uh, because whatever goes on, whatever happens, there's no telling what could happen. And
You still there?
I don't.
Can you hear me, Jonathan? Can you hear me?
Yep. Mhm. Um. Anyway, it's all worth. Let me see. What am I doing? It's all worth watching what we got going on for the spring. I'm gonna go ahead and show what we think could happen in the spring one more time. Uh, pop it up. Let me pop up the map. Bear with me. I'm still here. I'm trying to
Okay.
pop this up. All right. Okay. Um, let's see what some of you had to say. Um, Janice says cool. Um, I'm not sure if she's referring to the weather or the graphics. I don't know. Somebody else says nice. So, one more thing to show here. We're going to go through the spring outlooks from the Weather Service and ours one more time. So, let's pop them up. Okay, there we go. Um, Here we go. So, you can see this is the temperature outlook for the spring. It is warm in the orange area. It is cool in the bluer areas toward the north. And I specifically marked it towards Seattle and Spokane. It's cooler. And then for a good 80% of the country, it's much warmer for what they see this time of the year. Now, this is referencing each of these cities' upper temperature here. Is the next thing. I'm gonna show this. This is the um, precipitation. In the greens, it's wetter. Isaac, we're referencing. I think this forecast is going to be a bit more accurate than most of their long range forecasts because you can tell where the jet stream is here. You can see it. You can see it. It's to the north, meaning most of the stronger storms
Mm-hmm.
or most of where the air will clash is from where this drought area will be north and east. So again, dry patterns for in that area, which could persist to it. So you have to watch that. Here. Next, this is more recent. This is for next week, and it's the chance of heavy rain. There'll be multiple cold fronts coming from the west coast, moving across the country. So in this green area, there could be some stronger weather. And this is our thinking here, a group-wide thinking. This is what all of us have agreed on, and we've all congregated our
Mm-hmm.
ideas, and we've merged them together onto one graphical map. Again, I will post this on the feed. In the blue, you'll have snow and rain in that blue area. It'll start off as snow, rain later on in the spring, and it'll be cold in the
Yeah.
New England, cool from the Ohio Valley through the Midwest, farther down south to the Mid South. Chance of storms. Again, there's severe weather. That's why the word severe there is there with a question mark from Texas Oklahoma, Kansas points west. Drought, mostly lots of sunshine and warm, and warmer than normal temperatures, and dry. Not much rain for the spring. Um, and then from Florida up to Roanoke, Virginia, and Charlotte, it'll be much warmer than usual for this time of the year. So much warmer, um, much warmer than normal. And usually, when you get this kind of thinking, it's usually because of La Nina, but the La Nina is
Yes.
likely soon to go away. And I'm going to show you the spring headlines one more time. Um, well, I can see that. I'm going to show you the headlines for the spring here, at least the thinking, all summarized for you, who most of you I know that have maps, but here's the spring summary. Yeah, will likely go away. There's a 60% chance of it of us going neutral, 40% chance that La Nina will go away. Periods of severe weather through the spring are in the forecasts because it happens every spring, whether it be intense. You know, if you just get a derecho or hail, that's still severe weather, and it will be
Yeah.
written down in your particular city's books as severe weather. Cold front and Pacific storm systems, as well as dry lines, which we usually don't get the dry line set up until later on, April and May. That's usually when we get dry lines because in our transition to summer, we start to get that to creep in, which creates your dry. And then the dry air this time is looking to be more toward the Gulf. And when that means
Yep.
the Gulf can just shoot up moisture whenever it wants to, and you get that mixing of the atmosphere. So again, that's what we're looking at for the spring. Together that we have so far from everything. That's what all we have going on here. Now, um, again, we will be back here tomorrow, but we had to show you that stuff today. So we'll be back tomorrow. And again, um, that was the outlook for spring again. So we're gonna end it, and we'll see you all tomorrow.